You know that feeling when everything goes wrong? When you've tried your best but still failed? Today, I want to share something powerful, how failure can become your greatest teacher. Let me tell you about my biggest failure. 5 years ago, I lost everything. My business, my savings, my confidence. I remember sitting alone in my empty office, feeling like my world had ended. But that moment taught me something I'll never forget. Failure isn't the end of your story. It's often the beginning of a better one. Think about a baby learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times. But have you ever seen a baby give up? They keep trying, falling, getting up again. No shame, no fear, just pure determination. That's how we should look at failure, not as defeat, but as practice. Here's what most people don't understand about failure. It's not your enemy. It's like a strict teacher who shows you exactly what you need to learn. When I lost my business, I realized I hadn't failed at business. I'd failed at understanding what my customers really needed. That lesson became the foundation of my next successful venture. You see, failure has a way of stripping away everything that's not important. It's like a forest fire that looks devastating but actually clears the ground for new growth. When you lose everything, you find out what really matters. You discover strengths you never knew you had. I remember meeting a successful chef who told me about his first restaurant failing completely. He said something that changed my perspective. That failure wasn't the end of my dream. It was my dream telling me to dream bigger. Today, he owns 3 successful restaurants, each one built on lessons from his failure. Here's something interesting about failure. It's actually a better teacher than success. Success can make us comfortable, even lazy. But failure keeps us humble, makes us question our methods, forces us to innovate. Every time you fail, you're actually collecting data about what doesn't work. Let me share a secret about successful people. They've usually failed more times than others have even tried. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb. When asked about it, he said he hadn't failed. He'd found thousands of ways that didn't work. That's the mindset that turns failure into stepping stones. You know what's funny? We're actually more afraid of failing than failure itself. It's like being scared of the monster under the bed. When you finally look, it's never as scary as you imagined. I've learned to ask myself, what's the worst that could happen? Usually the answer isn't as terrible as my fear suggests. One thing nobody tells you about failure: it's a great filter for finding out who really believes in you. When I failed, some people disappeared from my life. But those who stayed, who supported me through my darkest times, they became my real inner circle. Failure showed me who my true friends were. Here's a practical way to handle failure. Treat it like a scientist. Scientists don't see failed experiments as failures. They see them as data. Each failure tells you something important. Write it down. What went wrong? Why? What could you do differently? Turn your failure into knowledge. Remember this: failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Like stairs in a tall building, each step, even backward ones, can take you higher if you learn from them. I've never met a successful person who hasn't failed their way to success. Sometimes failure feels like a dead end, but often it's life's way of pointing you in a better direction. Many great discoveries happen because of failure. Penicillin was discovered because of a failed experiment. Post-it notes were created from failed super-strong glue. Your failure might just be redirecting you to something better. Let me tell you something powerful. The size of your success is often determined by how well you use your failures. It's like learning to play an instrument. Every wrong note teaches you about the right one. The more mistakes you make and learn from, the better you become. Before we wrap up, remember this: failure doesn't define you. Your response to failure does. Every time you fall and get back up, you're not just recovering, you're rebuilding yourself stronger, wiser, better. If this message resonates with you, join our community by subscribing to Wisdom Journey. Share your story of failure and learning in the comments. Your experience might give someone else the courage to keep going. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to stay connected on this journey of growth through challenges. Remember, failure is not the end. It's a new beginning, waiting for you to write the next chapter.